I'm not going to have to shop as much for groceries because he's a big eater. He's an athlete, so he eats a lot, and the laundry's going to be cut down on a lot.
It's a big day for the Machula family. The first day of college for their last kid.
Now comes the big question. I want a copy of this.
I'm probably gonna miss the home cooked meals. Those are always good. And
thank you too.
all the chores like laundry and stuff like that.
You're gonna miss the chores?
Well, no, that mom always does. I'll have to start doing it myself.
The Machulas are familiar with this ritual. Their oldest son Andrew graduated from Holy Cross in 2009. Their daughter Mary is currently a senior. Mom Maureen was admitted with the first class of women in 1972.
We know the layout, we know the school, we know everything about what comes into play on move-in day. At the other side is the fact that this is our third and last child that's going to college, and there will be no one home. So there's that extra dynamic that we didn't have to face with the first two departing for college as well.
Sort of like a rite of passage for both Tim and for us at this point, becoming empty nesters and Tim going off to college and starting a new adventure of his own.
On a day like today, you might expect Boris and Maureen to cling to Tim as long as possible, faced with what they say will be a vacuum in the place of track meets, family dinners, and other Tim time. But they look forward to another ritual on this day of rituals to help ease their transition. An ancient mass with a modern twist.
I often say that if I had the Kleenex concession on this one, I'd really rake in the dough. It's probably one of the most tearful events, happy tearful.
Paul Covino is one of 8 college chaplains and the director of liturgy at Holy Cross. He came up with the idea of a farewell blessing.
I arrived here about 18 years ago, and my first year at the end of the Mass of the Holy Spirit, there was this awkward moment where parents went one way and students were asked to go another way, and it was clear that people didn't quite seem to know what to do. People were looking for a way to say goodbye, and it was clearly awkward. It was a moment that I would come to understand in my own life years later when I had children this age. So what we devised was a way to try to help put words in people's mouths, to try to help people ritualize, if you will, this saying goodbye, this pivotal transition period in the life of the family. And so what we do is at the end of the Mass, right before the final blessing, we invite first of all the students to stand and the faculty turn and bless them, invoking God's Spirit on them. And this blessing comes in the name of the people who will lead them in their educational process over the next 4 years.
May God be kind to you and give you peace.
But then we invite the parents to stand next to them and either put their arms over them or embrace them, and we offer a blessing in their name. We try to put words in their mouth when it's sometimes difficult for them to come up with the right words.
To guide our sons and daughters as they begin their time at Holy Cross. Bind us together now, even though we may be far apart. As our relationship grows and changes during these college years, may our sons and daughters always know that we are there for them in good times and bad, and that they are deeply loved by God and their families.
I think it works. And one of the proofs for me was 1 or 2 years after we began this blessing, a parent sent me a letter. He had dropped his son off at Holy Cross that year. 2 years earlier, he had dropped another child off at a large school somewhere. There came this moment where they had to turn and go their separate ways, and it was very impersonal. And he said, "You allowed us to say goodbye in a way that was really meaningful."
It's the formal rite of passage, not only in terms of cementing the values of this school, but at the end of that Mass is the official separation of parents and students. Students have a load of orientation activities, and parents are very politely but emphatically asked to leave, that is the point at which they go home and students begin their college year. So it's a very moving experience.
When you see 4 years later and you go to the Mass before your children graduate, they turn around and give the blessing to their parents. It goes full circle. It's very, very moving.
So they bless you, then kick you out.
That's
true.
Tomorrow, the Machulas face a new life on their own, without the kids. It will be another big day.